Hi, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Dimos Georgokritsos, and you might know me from the Airlock Academy or from previous webinars. I will be presenting the new features of the IAM 7.4, which we released a few weeks ago, and with me, not physically but virtually, is Mark Bütikover, Head of Innovations, or how I call him, father of the EAM, and he will be handling the chat and the question tools. So while I will be speaking, you have the chance to write down questions or ask something in the chat, and he will be answering those questions while I continue presenting the new features. Be aware that there are two or different ways how you can communicate with us. So you can do it publicly or privately. So if you want to ask something which not everyone should see, just use the tool or the tool that way that you can select to only send to us and not to everyone, and then only we will see the question and we will answer accordingly. We will focus today mainly on three things. We will have two examples where I show you how this is done in practice, one with the passwordless with FIDO and one with the Loginapp REST UI SDK. The first one is a new token type we support. The second one is the possibility to change the look and feel of the IAM without having an IAM running. And then we'll talk shortly about the user administration realms and then move on to different things which we thought might be interesting for you. You can find, as always, everything we changed in the release notes, which you can find on the tech zone. Starting with FIDO, as you know, there's the typical problem that over 80% of hacking related breaches used either stolen or weak passwords, which means that people react with complicated password policies, which on the other hand means that those passwords are hard to remember. And if they don't use a password tool, they will use or reuse passwords, which makes everything dangerous, because getting the password for one side will automatically enable people to give them the passwords to other sides, and therefore this circle closes down. We introduced with the last few versions Airlock 2FA, which allows a passwordless authentication, and we're introducing now with this version the support of FIDO token. FIDO, this is an alliance of different companies which were interested in finding a way to create or to have an authentication, including registration of token, which don't have to be necessarily provided by the same provider. So there are different ways of, or different kind of tokens which you can use when you're using FIDO, which means when you log in into a system protected by FIDO, you usually type in the username, maybe the password, and then you will be asked to use your token. You can, as I say, register it on the first time. The protocol they developed has specifically the registration in it. So the registration is a part of the protocol, how it's done, how the information is exchanged with the server, and what information is shared with the server. So not everything goes to the server. And the nice thing is you can swap away the username password part and only rely on the authentication with the token. There are actually two kind of tokens. One type is a mobile type. So let's say it's a token you can always carry with you, like a USB stick or your mobile device. And on the other hand, you can have system reliant tokens. Let's say you have a browser on your laptop or a browser on your working machine which supports FIDO. This browser is able to create secure connections to the according services by using its own FIDO protocol. And what's also very important is that this FIDO token create then a key for every communication, so it creates key pairs, a private and public key, and then shares the public key with each service. It shares another public key. So having the information from one service doesn't doesn't necessarily mean that you can access actually other services. And of course, because it's a public key, it's even less worse than having private keys of the according communication. As I said, the registration is part of the protocol. Of course, the authentication is part of the protocol. We included the token migration, so if you don't have a FIDO token yet, you will be able to migrate automatically to the FIDO authentication. So if you just log in with username and password, the next time you will log in, you will be able to use your FIDO token. Of course, the administration is part of what we did with this token, and important for you to know, it's only on the Loginapp REST world, so you can have flows. So if you're using the Loginapp REST UI, you can access those flows, but the classical JSP Loginapp isn't support or doesn't have a FIDO support in this matter. So I have created a user here, which has an authentication. Yes, set to password, which means when I log in as this user, of course, I have a password manager, even for the demos. You will see that I only use username and password, and then I'm logged in. Okay. So what we are going to do is we're going to change this and set up this user to have the possibility to migrate to FIDO, and then use FIDO for the next logins. In the configuration, this is quite simply done. We used the demo configuration where we actually had to set up just one value. Everything else is set up by default. For this case here, of course, you can change many things here. So in the main settings, authentication settings, FIDO settings, you have the repository where the information is stored. The relying party ID, this is my ID as a server, which I provide to the FIDO token. So the FIDO token knows, okay, this key pair I'm using right now, this is for this domain which I'm talking to right now. So even if you have a different IAM, this IAM might have a different relying party ID, and then this will have a different key pair communicating with the FIDO instance. And down here, you have the attestation verifier, which you have to set. We have set it to none, which means that any FIDO token can be used to access our implementation or this configuration here. You can actually turn it down, so only a specific type of FIDO tokens can be used. Another interesting thing is require resident key is a setting which is on in our case. This is a setting which is needed if you want to use passwordless authentication. On the other hand, not every FIDO token does support that, only that you know, but in our case, we simply wanted to show you how this works. So we enabled this setting here, or it's enabled in this configuration, and therefore we will be able to show you the passwordless configuration. So this means I can go to the user and then set the migration to FIDO and save it here. Okay. If I switch now to the authentication, I will show you how the configuration of the authentication is done a little bit later. But if I switch now to the authentication, I will be able to log in again with the same user I showed you before. And now I will be asked if I want to migrate now or later. I clicked on my keyboard by mistake, but it's a right thing which happened. I want to migrate now or later or never. You can of course change the settings to only migrate now or later, so people have to migrate if they want. So I want to present a display name which will be used, and then I can start the registration. What happens now is there is a pop-up of my browser or of the operating system, which tells me that it's gonna set up the FIDO security key. It's in German. I actually don't know if you can see it or if this is removed from the presentation, and then it tells me that it has. I will move on to do the setup for this domain, or the relying party ID I just presented you in the configuration. So now, as you see, everything which I'm showing now is not part of the IAM, but it's part of the FIDO part on my machine with my token. So I set up a pin here locally, which I will be using in future to for this to access this token. It's setting it up, and it's asking me to press my security key, which is a USB key, and that's it. Now I'm registered. So if I log off again, log in again, next time I can use username password, and now it's telling me that it will move on with the FIDO authentication. We decided to have this so you're aware that you are doing a second step and you don't do it just by mistake. So press login to continue. I have to provide my PIN again. Now again, I'm back on the token side of this communication. So this isn't communicate with the IAM. I'm asked to press on my token and I'm logged in. It's as easy as that. So in the configuration, in the Loginapp, we have set up 2 authentication flows. So it's a REST API configuration. As I said, it's only in here. And in the authentication API settings, we have this default authentication, which we're using right now. And in the demo authentication flow, you will see that we have this migration selection step down here. This was the step which we selected for the migration we just did. Just let me be sure that I'm logged off. Yes. The second flow which we prepared is a FIDO passwordless flow. So we have a URL which we can call, which will then initiate the passwordless authentication. So this passwordless step here. Let me just copy this URL. Yeah, it's down here. 1 second. Which means whenever I call this URL, I won't be asked for my username, but it will redirect me automatically to the FIDO authentication. I press login, and without presenting my password, so removing the password from the whole equation, I will be asked to present my PIN for my FIDO token. I will be asked to tap on my FIDO token, and now I'm logged in without having a password. So nothing on the IAM side can be leaked, no information is on our side, which is critical, which could be leaked and then used for an attack somewhere else. And also the keys, as I said, are used for the different domains, for the different relying parties, and which means that a phishing attack on which will redirect you to a different domain won't be able to get the communication key of let's say for this communication, because the FIDO will know, okay, I'm not on this domain, I'm using a different domain, therefore I will use a new communication key for that one, which is actually really, really nice. New addition, more token which you can use with our IAM. Moving on to the Loginapp REST UI SDK. So the Loginapp REST UI is the UI we give you, which allows you to use the browser with the Loginapp REST API without having to create your own client. And the thing is, if you're using this UI, you will have a lot of pages which will be used or can be used. And all those pages, of course, come with the default look and feel. And if you want to change this, it isn't enough to simply change one page and then just rely that everything looks okay. It would be nice to have a possibility to have a look at all the pages. And this is what we did. We created an SDK which you can run without having an IAM, so you can download this SDK and change the styles, the translation, the dynamic extensions, and everything like this. So give me a second. If you go to the download page, which is here, you will see you have the installer up here, you have the manual installation for the Linux, the Docker image down here, and this here is the Airlock IAM Loginapp REST UI SDK. It's a long name, but it's the SDK which allows you to run a mock server on your machine, and you're able to change the look and feel of the IAM without having a running IAM. So the UX design expectation on working on IAM, changing the look and feel of the IAM, is that this person doesn't want to have a running IAM, because this person usually doesn't care about the technology. She or he only cares about the look and feel. Then a direct access to specific screens. So without having to know all the URLs, this person wants to be able to have a look. Okay, how does the maintenance page look like? How does the maintenance message look like? How does the login page look like? How does the registration page look like? It would be nice to have something with live changes, so immediately as someone saves the changes, they should be viewable. Text keys for the translation, so if a new non-translated button pops up, the text key should be viewable, or one can see the text key, so one immediately knows what text key should be used to set this translation. Of course, incorporate warnings and messages, and of course the EM update should be done without minimal changes, so a new version of the IAM shouldn't bring a whole bandworm of changes with it. This is what we did with the SDK. As I said, it's a standalone mock server which you can download, and as soon as you download it, it will have all these possibilities here. It focuses on the navigation and the settings. It's standalone and it's live reloading. And down here you will see it looks like the typical login page, of course, if you call this page. But down here you have the SDK settings where you can change everything accordingly to your wishes. So what I did before we started this webinar, I downloaded the server, and after the download, you only have to extract it, create a folder. This is one command, and then start it, which is a second command. So it's running up here. And I have a second window where I can change the files, so I can do some changes, so you can see how this works. So what I have now is, aside this running IAM here on the true domain, I have a second login screen which is accessing this mock server directly. If you're running it locally, it will even open up after starting the script. It will even open up your browser, but I chose to do it in a server, so I had to type in this this URL by myself. But it is presented to you, so you can know how you can access it. Down here are the SDK settings I was talking about. So a UX person will connect to this server and be able to change to any setting or to any page this person wants to. So if this person wants to see the maintenance messages, this person can only simply enable it. Change language, click on here. Show alert message, click on here, and one can even decide which type of alert should be shown. Yes, no, let me reduce to everything I needed. And as I said, it would be nice to be able to see how do the changes look on different pages. So we even provide you all the pages there are. So if I go to the authentication, I can check out how the password change looks like. I can check out how the Airlock 2FA challenge looks like. And as you can see here, actually it's a really web page which is called, or there are REST calls done in the background. So the browser actually doesn't know there isn't a real IAM, but it will create calls, and this mock server will answer to those calls. This is why dynamically this page changed into a different page after not being able to run the Airlock 2FA. Okay, so let's move on to the manipulating part. So what I'm going to do is of course, I ran into a timeout. This was so clear. Just give me a second. Yes. I have to switch to the according user and then go to the directory we prepared. So, yes, here we were here. I will open up the custom variables as CSS. This is actually a file which we prepare where we have the typical variables which you want to change and which you simply can enable and change the settings there. So if I want to change the EM logging, actually it might not be viewable for you, but I can see it even if it's dark blue. This is the EM logo width and height. And if I want to change how it's displayed, let me have a look. Yes. And this one here, I put it to 175 pixels. Save it. The moment I save it, actually should start here the compilation. Sometimes my server is a little bit slow. So let me push a reload. Oh. I know what the problem is. The same thing as the other terminal. I actually, as I said, I started it early and therefore it ran into a timeout. So give me a second to just restart this one and then we'll move on with the presentation and I can do the demo then later as soon as the server gets started. So I will initialize the directory as I said. Those are the two commands which are needed to start everything, and this is the second command starting the server. It will take a few minutes until this server is started, so let's move on to the next point before we can come back to this UI demonstration. Sorry for the inconvenience. It happens sometimes if you're doing it live and not prepare everything on a video. The last big theme about for today is the possibility of creating user administration realms. So up to now, you had only a centralized administration, which means that all the administration group was for all the users or for all the user groups, and the administration could see all the users. And if you had different clients, for instance, on the same IAM, or if you were providing the IAM service for different clients, what you could do was to do tenants, which would just create a different structure like this on the side. So those administrators would see only their users, but they couldn't see the other administrators, and of course couldn't be administered by any global administrator. So you had a different tenant with all the functionality. This is works for companies which provide IAM services for many different clients, but for big companies who have different parts, different different structures or different departments, this is not feasible at all, because you had to switch a tenant and log out, log in again, and it would become really, really difficult. This is why we introduced the realms, which means that inside one IAM structure, inside one database, you don't have to have a different database scheme. You can define realms. So you say those, there's a headquarter realm, there's a branch, there's a region, a partner, supplier, and so on and so on. And the administrators then would be able to be set up that way that they only can see a realm. So you have super admins which will be able to handle those realm admins, and the realm admins which will be only be able to see their users. The super admins, of course, with according authentication, still could be able to see the users, but you can set this up as you want. So this means in our setup, or in this screenshot, we have a production realm, we have a sales realm, and different user groups. And as soon as a admin logs in for the sales realm, this admin will be only able to see those users here, which are inside the same realm. Gives you much more flexibility, and depending on your situation, you can use tenants. So the thing we had before, where you had different database schemes or different database with different admin groups handling everything atomized, or everything in itself, or this realm solutions where you can just do the separation logically within the software. So my mock-up server is running again. Yes, he's back. So where was I? Yes, I wanted to change those settings here. I have to do it again, of course, because I was logged out. But this should be a thing of half a minute. Saving this file. Now it compiles on the other screen. Takes a second until it compiles. As I said, it isn't the fastest server. If you have a locally on a modern machine, this would be quite faster. But as soon as it goes through, you will see, of course, I chose a page without this logo, but you will see that the logo down there should be bigger, or not viewable at all. Anyways, let's do some bigger changes and see how those affect the whole thing. So I prepared some pictures or images which will be used. I want to change this so it looks like the WordLink page, the page we are using for our academy. If you've been to our academy, and yes. So instead of typing everything in, I prepared everything on the side so I can copy it, paste it here, which is changing the label, changing the background colors, and so on and so on. And again, it starts compiling on this machine here. It takes a second until it processes everything. As soon as it finished, the look and feel changed on this page. And as I said, it does it on all the pages. So if I switch to another page, to the password change page, or to the device edit page, it looks like it will look when you run everything. So let's do one last change so it looks a little bit nicer than it looks right now. Last but not least change here. Enter those CSS details. Again, as soon as I save, this will start compiling. Take a minute, and then it changes all the look and feel for the whole page. And again, as I said, you can switch to different pages and see how they would look like when this look and feel is done. Of course, you can reduce the pages available with the settings, so you don't have all the pages which ever were done, but you can reduce them to the ones you really need. So the UX guy can only focus on the pages which are really interesting for him or her. At the end, you can stop the server, create a zip file, copy to the IAM, and then you can reference it there easily by changing one property, and the look and feel will be imported into your productive system or to your test system or wherever you want to run it. So it's really easily done and simply set up. Okay, I know the slide was about the user RAMs who were back at the Loginapp REST UI SDK. Let me finish up with a few more slides. We did some changes at the session management. I think the most important change is if you log out in one tab, you will be logged out in all tabs. So up to now, that wasn't possible. But now you can simply do a logout in one tab, and the Openi Connect session will be destroyed on all tabs. Token revocation and token introspection is still necessary, and something which doesn't belong to the session management in Openi Connect. If you're using that, it's now possible to have distributed claims. So just that you know. I was talking about the Loginapp REST UI. We have new features there. We have a new flexibility within flow, so the password reset flow is extended, account unlock is there, temporary locking, MTON self-management, Airlock 2FA, if you want to have it as approval of protected self-services. So if you want to have a self-service protected by another factor, you can use now Airlock 2FA. Of course, FIDO support, as I mentioned, is now in there. Cronto or push activation, a lock step where you can lock everything in a self-service flow, voluntary password change, a list of, you can even get a list of available self-services, and there's a E2E for user data and registration steps. You see that we are extending this REST UI a lot because we have a goal, and our goal is to have a version, we call it IAM 8, without the old JSP login app. So everything will be based on this new REST UI because we know it's much more flexible than the old REST UI. Than the old JSP login app. So you will be able to create your own flows. We introduced go-tos, so you can jump from any point to another point. During that flow, you can have multiple flows, you can have selection steps, and so on and so on. And this is a much more mightier version of the login app, and this is why we want to move on to this one here. And this is why we set up a time plan already, and we know which release will be when, and when will be the end of support of the according releases. So where we are now is in the beginning of 2021. Or spring of 2021, where we released IAM 7.4. We will have two more versions, so one in half a year and another one in about 1 year. And this 7.6 will be the last one, including the JSP login app. This version, the 7.6 version, will be supported for, I think, 18 months, which means it will be supported up to the end of 2023. So for people who don't want to change now or next year, they will have a version of IAM which will be running on until the end of 2023, so 2.5 years still. But we will be introducing at the end of 2022 or in the fall of 2022 a version of IAM 8, which will be completely without this JSP login app. So we're asking you to move from the classic view to the new view. There will be a mailing in the next few days or weeks where we show you how we can support you, what you can do. There is even on the online documentation where it tells you what the migration steps are, what you can have a look at what you need to know. And there will be even a training starting from 3rd of June, I think. The release of this date will be also in the next few days, only focused on the one day of this Loginapp REST UI, how to use them, how to have those flows, how to set them up, and so on and so on. Of course, the normal training will also switch to the Loginapp REST UI. But for those guys, or for the persons who already did the training and only need this part, there will be a one-day training. So you can have a focused training on this one and ask the questions you wanted to ask. What's very important to us is a thing which is standing on the top of this page. If you see that there is something missing in the Loginapp REST UI, which you need, if there's a flow which isn't supported yet, but you would need it to migrate from the setup you have now to the Loginapp REST UI, please tell us. Otherwise, we won't know which features could be missing. We are setting up those features which we know that customers are using it, but we don't know every configuration from every customer. So please tell us. You will, in this mailing, you will be informed how you can tell us. Actually, you can simply use the support and then we can set it up. But there will be a whole process where we take the information and then make sure that all the features will be there with the according IAM version when we move on. So what this means is we change the support length from the old model to fixed on release. Every time we release an IAM now, you will already know how long it will be supported. Up to now, it was like on the release of the next LTS version. From them on, I think it was 12 months or something. But we changed this. So on the release, you will know this version will be supported for that long. So on the release of 7.6, you will know it will be supported until, let's say, the end of 2023. The other one, the other thing we changed is that we only have long-time support versions now. We don't have these short-time support versions. From now on, those 7.2 was a short-time support version. This was an in-between version, which was only supported to more or less to the release of the next version. So it was really, you had to update to this version to 7.2 and then move on to 7.3 because the support already was over more or less when the 7.3 was coming out. So we stopped those versions here. We will only have versions which have longer support for quite a long time. So you see, for instance, this version here has 18 months of support. Yeah, I wasn't that bad. 18, 19 months of support until the end of 2022. So if you're installing 7.4 now because you had 7.1 or 7.2, or even if you move on from 7.3, this version here will be supported till the end of next year. As usually, we have our update trainings every 3 months, more or less. They're in English, and you can register on the Academy registration page if you just want to see not only Loginapp REST UI, but all the other new features. If you want to have a look at them and use them, don't hesitate to sign up for those. And rounding up, I'm already talking about 40 minutes, so last thing, if you have any friends which missed this webinar, then you can point them to the Texon Ergon CH/webinars page, where we have all the past webinars with the slides and the recorded version of this webinar. It will be uploaded in the next few days, hopefully until the end of the week. But probably a little bit faster. It was the page where you could register up to now, but it will be moved down here to slides and recorded webinar, or to the past webinar section. Okay, that's it. As far as I see, there were no questions, which can be a good sign, but don't hesitate to have a question. Mark and I will be online for, I think, let's say 5-10 minutes. If questions will pop up, we will stay online, of course, otherwise we would log out. Thank you for your attention. You know how to contact us. You know where to find the information, airlock.com or Texon Ergon CH. And Actually, I wish you a nice day. Yeah, it's 10 o'clock in the morning here in Switzerland. So whatever you're doing, enjoy the rest of your day.